So, as always, I'll start with what is an awakening experience. And from my perspective, there needs to be three components that need to be in the experience of the person. And really, when I say person, I'm meaning in consciousness. So, with awakening, the source, the absolute, awakens, and it awakens to itself in a specific, particular consciousness. And that really is the reason why there is form, why we're created and all the world's created is for the absolute to awaken to itself, because it can only awaken in form. It can't awaken in a formless realm to itself. It must enter from form. So there are three components that I look for before I'm confirming an awakening experience, what the initial experience in the Zen tradition is called Kensho. So to confirm a Kensho, there would need to be a deep experience of absence of self, and that would mean that the inner self-referencing is absent. I ask you who you are, you turn in to check in, and you can't find anything to land on. It's really like there's a question mark where there used to be this list of what makes up you, your name, your age, your gender, sexuality, education, family, all these different things would be markers of me, how you know yourself. And those are not available, they're offline. When one first encounters this, there's a kind of a mad dash to reestablish the markers of me in the sense of self, because it feels very exposed and vulnerable to not have the sense of self be apparent and readily available. But we learn over time to stay with the absence of self and develop a certain amount of comfort, and that will help deepen that experience. The second component is seeing clearly that the absolute, what I call true nature, it's an interchangeable term for me, as our true identity. So the absolute recognizes, wakes up to itself and recognizes itself in a particular location, in a certain consciousness. So it's seeing this is truly who I am. And then the third is a love experience, a unity experience where everything is one, everything's a fabric of oneness. And that can happen in such a way that there also can be an absence of self. It's a little different quality in the love. It's like the love is so predominant that it just encompasses the sense of self. It's not quite an absence of self, it's a little different. And one can have either a deep absence of self experience, which traditionally Buddhism calls no self experience, and one can have an independent unity experience. All is one. Love is the fabric of everything, and those can be independent. And the second, the unity experience, the love experience, I would call a unity experience. So that I will confirm those for people when they have those, but all three need to be there in order for it to be confirmed as Kensho. And the other aspect of that I'll just mention here is, at least in my teaching, unless the Kensho is substantial, then typically I won't confirm it either. It needs to be significant enough to really change things. It needs to be transformational. And that's part of what we're looking for, and speaking for Zen teachers. So one can have a very brief or very shallow experience. It's still beneficial. It still confirms all of this is real, but it's not enough to really change the settings. It doesn't, sometimes I refer to it as, it doesn't shift the house off the foundation of me. So the depth of awakening really relates to how long the sense of self is absent, how long absence of self is the landed state or landed experience. And the difference can be, one can have this experience lasting minutes, hours, then it can go into days, weeks, months. And really the deeper awakenings are ones that are going to be lasting. One is going to have contact with the vastness of the absolute, the no self experience, and they'll titrate, they'll alternate between the depths of no self and absence of self and unity of love, and then impersonality. The personality functioning doesn't necessarily function exactly as it did before, because there isn't the same belief, there isn't the same conviction in its reality. So, and then there begins the process of really looking at the our behavior and our orientation towards the sense of self and our relating to others. And we begin to upgrade those contact points and bring those more into harmony with the realization. And that's an ongoing process. It's really a never-ending process from my perspective. So I view it that both realization and integration are both endless. So fortunately, there's no finish line, and that's why we do what's called continuous practice or ongoing practice. There are typically two portals to awakening, and I've mentioned them already. The first is through the absence of self, which is moving into what I call the unmanifest functioning of the absolute. And the unmanifest is characterized chiefly by absence, by emptiness. It's a nothingness, a blackness, a nothingness. But it's not a nothingness that's actually nothing. It's a nothingness where there feels like something is here. So I talk about it sometimes like taking a book out of your bookshelf and you look in the space that's left. And of course, nothing is there. You're holding the book in your hand. And yet there's a sense something belongs here. And that's the kind of experience of the absence quality or functioning of the absolute. And the two characteristics chiefly we find and make contact with in the unmanifest are peace and stillness. The functioning aspect of the absolute is typically light, bright, brilliantly bright, in fact, generally a whiteness, and it is characterized by pure love, pure presence, and pure awareness. Pure awareness is simply direct awareness without concept. So it's knowing something by being contactful with it, rather than thinking about it or drawing upon a memory of it. So there's a different kind of reality that begins to happen when we are functioning with pure awareness.